show is called Not Alone. You came up with that name, Sarah, which I love. And, you know, the beauty is we'll talk in a moment about what our readings look like, both individually, but just coming together in this community and having this space to meet up every Tuesday for 4 weeks and integrate some of the work and understand on a deeper level where we're at, what we're working through and moving through, you know, and just building that sense of community and togetherness. Because it's so important. In my readings, we'll be talking about, I'll be going through your chart for you, and then also talking about the transits and like, I think of it as a spiral. You know, the journey of our life is like, where are we at in the cycle of becoming, you know, becoming more ourselves or in our expression. So it's like you mentioned, there's these larger cycles, and that's kind of what astrology gives us the information about, you know. And coming into this year, there are a lot of huge astrological changes. When Pluto finishes up in a sign, it's like the themes get strengthened, and whatever work or whatever healing, whatever transformation we were going through in that part of our chart and in that sign as well. So Capricorn is about like systems and structures and all these things. We're seeing all this transformation and all this kind of crumbling, right? As we move into Aquarius, which is much more about like the people and being an individual, but also like what is each person's role and what are each person's gifts so that they can contribute to humanity and they can contribute to the whole. So it's kind of an interesting sign, Aquarius, because it's like there's this group or like the larger good, the common good, and how do we support each other in this wider community. But it's also about like the part of us that is allowed to be different and march to the beat of our own drum. So I think this is a really neat time, not only to kind of unpack where this transformation is moving through in our own birth chart, because it'll be in a different area of life for everybody, but we're all going through it, you know, as a collective and as a whole. So it's like both individually and collectively. And then like, what is it that is our work or our uniqueness that's like coming forward at this time?
The soul readings that I'm doing, it's very complementary to the work that you're doing, because you almost have this scientific blueprint that you're reading, mixed with, of course, your own intuitive methods, the way that you do it. But the deeper soul work as well that accompanies it, it just kind of goes really nicely hand in hand. And you've experienced it personally, and so have I, with the two of us exchanging sessions, and I think they just work so well together. So to provide that for people as the basis upon which we then work from, so that coming together every week, it's an opportunity for people to ask questions, share, and essentially just be supported in this integration. This whole life is about healing. It's about remembering who we are, which is like everything. And so as we then come together and just support one another, it's just like it's just a way for us to integrate. And I think it's good.
Yeah, it'll be amazing. Yeah, so when you were talking about your readings going right to the heart of the matter, I love that. And, you know, even like Sarah, because I've done some astrology readings for you, and you've done an Akashic record reading for me, and some other ones actually, which before I think is one of the reasons that kind of like got me on this astrology journey. But one of the ones that you did a long time ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Both of us have our sun. The sun is like the core of who you are in your birth chart, sitting right with Pluto. And, you know, Pluto is the planet of like intensity and truth and like peeling back the layers. So I just wanted to add that because I feel I just valued that so much in my reading with you, was that you really just cut to the chase of like what's there and what I need to become aware of. You know, it's kind of like Pluto's all about bringing the shadow to the light, but it's a beautiful thing, because if what's there is not acknowledged or seen or recognized, then it's kind of running the show below the surface. But once we can see it and name it and acknowledge it and become aware of it, then we become free, right? We become free to choose, and we can release and let go. And that's all about what the Pluto transit's about, is about letting go of what is no longer in alignment with our soul. Yeah, so what I loved about my reading with you was we did 2, and you know, it was what came up, what was not what I was expecting. there were like pieces of my past that were still, I feel like imprints in my field that were still places where I was fearful. And, you know, right, kind of like right to the heart of the matter, like, here's the thing that's in the way. And through each of the readings, I could visualize my chart, and I could see my chart. And it was like, it was so interesting to see how both of these modalities can be so connected, because it was like speaking right to like my soul blueprint and like who I am on a deep level, and what can be in the way there, or where I can be holding on, or where I can be fearful. So for example, that was like the Pluto Sun connection was the first one, which was quite intense and confronting. And then the second one was another aspect in my chart that I could just like see and experience through the vision that you had and the journey that you took me on. But I could just like see these different aspects of myself that I can so clearly locate in my chart. And so I thought, you know, what an amazing thing to be able to give the combination to people and show them like, you know, or speak to how this looks in your birth chart, you know, because essentially when we do our readings together, it's going to be recorded, and I'm going to kind of like read the picture of the blueprint of your chart, but then also speak to the transits, and the transits are the planetary alignments in the sky right now. So like you speaking to that really current piece of like what is arising in this moment, or what is kind of a potential in this moment, or what are the potentials in this moment for us. And then it'll be interesting to see what arises in your reading, and then how we can support the integration, the understanding, and the healing moving forward together. So yeah, I really do feel like there's going to be so many connections. That's how it was in my reading with you.
And so even though there's this blueprint that you're reading, like I think you've done maybe 3 birth chart readings for me, and you always pick something else, but it's not just something random. It's something that's specific to what it is I need to know in this moment. You present the information, and it's sort of like in a way where it's like, now you get to take this bit of information and do with it what you feel is best, without this really biased opinion on what you feel like I should do.
Astrology is really a language of symbols, and it works by association. So there's always multiple potential meanings, and usually we've experienced the whole range of our placements in our lives. There's no right or wrong. It's just that's how we've expressed it or experienced it at different times. The person receiving the reading is the authority, and will understand and know what lands. And so really there's this piece around being empowered to create the meaning on your own and to do with it what you will. And that was the exact same as my experience with your reading. I've been to many of the readings in the past, especially when I was going through my dark night of the soul years ago. And at that time, I felt like I was really giving my power away to people and being like, who am I? Like, what's my path? What do I need? And people telling me one thing, and then another person telling me another thing. And although those are important experiences for me to have, because I think it opened me up to understanding that there was more than I could see in the here and now, it was like I wasn't the authority in that situation. And so I feel like the way that your reading went for me, you're explaining this journey, and then it was like up to me to like understand what it means. And so I think that's going to be the beauty in the integration together, is like, you're not going to say like, oh, it means this, or it means this about you, or it means you need to do this. Like, I need to be like, I think I called you after, I was like, what? And then after a few times we were texting back and forth, I was like, oh, it means this, and oh, it means this. And then I was able to like come full circle, but took a little bit. It wasn't right there, because you didn't know what it meant either. You were just telling me what you saw.
And that's the whole point of the importance of the integration, and why coming together for every week for like a month is because things unravel themselves. And that's what it's supposed to be like. A dream comes to hold all this information through metaphor. And those metaphors are what you are to perceive. Like, what does it mean to you? And then what is it speaking to in your life? And so there's like a lot of reflection and sort of unraveling, like unpacking of what it could be pointing to and meaning. And that's why it's super important to come together to provide that for everyone, and just for supporting everyone's own like growth and transformation. Because that's really what we're showing up with, that intention, is that we both hold so strong the importance of of self-improvement, growth, transformation, and we're both like very committed to our practices. So naturally, we're going to share that, I think. So
we're going to be starting this after Mars and Mercury both move direct. So I think we'll feel that things will be moving forward. People will be ready to do some of this work, to create some changes, to connect, to communicate, all these things. So that's happening in a couple weeks. But yeah, January 15th is the day to apply by. You'll receive a reading from me, a reading from Sarah. And then it'll be the 4 weeks of meeting together on Tuesday mornings at 9:30.